Al, it's Otome o'clock.
It is Otome o'clock.
So I guess it's time to talk about Otome.
Yay.
Had to look at my watch and I was like, wow, it's Otome o'clock. I can't believe it.
Wow, 6:26 is Otome o'clock.
9:26 is Otome o'clock.
Same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the seasonal anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc, Al, and Lady
Hello.
This is episode number 427, and Al's going to take us through a new Otome game, a 2025 Otome game.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
This is one that I have to thank P Cube for giving me a code for. Thank you again, P
Uh-huh.
Cube. That was very kind of you. Wouldn't mind if you keep that up. Thumbs up. Yeah, things are in French.
Ho, ho,
So I'm
ho.
So oui baguette. I'm gonna say things horribly butchered. Forgive me. But the name of it is Genso Manège.
Genso
Is it
Manège.
Manège?
Manège.
It's basically a magic carousel. I assume that's what that means.
Yeah, I think Manège is like just a carousel type deal.
Yeah, like it's the little horsey. Do 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 do.
That is what a carousel is. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Um. So yeah, that's the game we're gonna be talking about today. We've got some dateable dudes. How many dateable dudes? One, two, three, four, five, six dateable dudes. We have a pro tag named Emma. Um, Before I dive deep into the boys, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on here. Um, it's a Natome game. Like it plays the same. There is a mini game that you have to collect sparkles and then have like a timing thing where you have something that pulses and you have to get the overlay at the right time. The funny thing about the mini game is that after you do it once, you can skip it from then on in every route and every single time that it comes up. Um, so it's like, oh, okay. I guess this isn't really all that relevant. Sure. Um, so I think it's just there to give you something to do, maybe.
Maybe.
Um, and also it took me a second to figure out how to actually do it because I was playing my Switch docked mode and you have to control the sparkles with the control sticks, but it's really kind of unintuitive on how that works. If you're on the Switch undocked, then you can just do your finger, which makes way more sense. But that's the big difference in gameplay here is just there's a mini game, but you can skip it almost every time.
Can I go over these features on the website and you can tell me if these are actually for true in this video game?
Yeah, because one of them I looked at and I was like, whoa!
Breathtaking romance.
6 different male leads to sweep you off your feet. Follow the character routes to uncover the secrets. Um, I wouldn't say breathtaking, but there are some good routes. There's also some not good routes.
A thriving town. What a feature.
I mean, you go into town and you buy stuff for the park. You sometimes buy sweets. It's part of the
Daz-
plot.
Dazzling pastel world.
It is very pastel, and the art is
All
very
right.
pretty. Very,
Magical
very
mini
pretty.
games.
Well, that's the thing that I was looking at that I'm like, there's only a single mini game, and you can skip it, and it's not really all that magical, but sure.
Voiced characters.
They are voiced. That is correct. Except for Emma. Emma is not voiced.
Which, yeah, that makes sense. Usually
Yeah.
how that goes.
Yeah,
And
sometimes you can get them.
well, yeah, true, but for the most part, I feel like it's usually like they're unvoiced because you got to. You have to. The player has to get into the role of the main character.
Hmm.
An unforgettable tale.
Sweet and touching, yet tinged with sadness. Weaves a tale which is as happy as it is bittersweet. There's a lot of tragic in this game. Um, I mean, yeah, it's sweet because like there's some cute romance stuff, but like at the same time, this game's really dark considering like how cute it is.
That's how
Um,
they get you.
yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, all right, I guess that's where we're going with it. I mean, like straight up, I told you when I was first playing it, like you basically have like theme park slavery happening. Um, like everybody who's working at this theme park that has come to town is well, not everybody, almost everybody who's in this theme park is chained or somehow connected to the park so that they can't leave. And Emma is a witch and she has to free them. And I'm sure you can understand eventually why that would lead to some tragedy. But boy, howdy, does it get dark at times. Hoo-wee. So did that answer your question about the features?
Yes.
Okay. Um, so yeah, th those are the features. Again, the whole plot is that like Emma, she lives in like a countryside town in France. She used to live in Paris with her dad, but then um, well, her mom and her dad. But then her mom died. Her mom was a witch. She's a witch. Um, she was told that her dad died saving her when she fell in the big river in Paris, the dirty river.
That that one river.
Sin? Is Sin? Do you know what river I'm talking about?
Nope.
Aren't
A
you
river.
aren't you supposed to know the French stuff?
I mean, look. Doesn't mean I know geography.
Okay, that's fair. I'm gonna throw it in the chat and you can tell me how you would say that, maybe. How you would say that specifically.
Hang on, let me pull it up here.
Okay.
I think it's sign,
Sign?
sane, sane, sign, sin, sign, sane, sign, sin. Hang on, let me have Wikipedia tell me, play the audio.
Sin.
It just says sin.
Sin? Okay, so I said it right.
The river sin.
Okay, so she was told that she fell in the river. Her dad tried to save her. Her dad died saving her, but she survived. But she lost her memories. So that happened when she was 10. She was taken in by this other family um who they said that they were friends with her dad and all that. And so like, okay, cool. I guess I'll live with you guys now. So she's been living with them since she was 10. She's now 17. Um, and then an amusement park comes to town. Wow, it's a traveling amusement park. She's like, I never leave my house because I'm scared of people because I'm a witch and I don't want people to think I'm a bad witch. Um, but she decides that she's going to live her life a little bit and go to this theme park and see, or amusement park and see what's up. And she goes and she's like, wow, this is neat. It's pretty. And there are automatons everywhere and like fun people doing fun things. Yay. Um, I don't know what this word means. What does this mean? What does this translate to? God dang it. No, not Japanese. What is wrong with you? Dream? Dream. Okay, so it's like a music park of dreams or something like that. But yeah, as I said, they're trapped. They're all bound to the amusement park. And there is a whole thing of like people who are like at the edge of death are drawn to the amusement park. So there's that. Um, but the leader of the director of the amusement park, he recognizes her and was like, "Hey, you're a witch. You can use your magic and you can free us, and that'd be cool." And she's like, "No, no. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not a witch." He's like, "No, no. Like, I'm aware. You're a witch. It's fine. Can you please free us? You can work here and you can do whatever you want as long as you practice your magic before and after your shift." And she's like, "Yay! I get to do things outside the house." So she agrees to do it. She wants to free them. And as she is doing that, she realizes like, "Oh, wow, the amusement park is entirely run on magic. That's cool." And she meets all the other people. So, like I said, you've got the director. His name is Hugo. You've got the accountant. His name is Sergey. You've got the like main performer. I had this conversation with you. I was playing it. His name is Kriye.
Yeah, sounds
Um,
about right.
yeah, I was listening to how they pronounce it, and every time they say Kriye, so. There's a rabbit mascot, and then there's a shut-in mechanic. And then you also have your childhood friend, the one that you live with. So those are your datables. Also worth mentioning, there is a girl that is at the park. Her name is Clara. She's your age, and you end up being friends with her. That's pretty cool. So that's the gist, the common route. That's where we're going with this. Um, Something else that I do want to bring up, and I will bring this up again during their routes, is there are entirely too many adult men dating a 17-year-old girl in this game. Um, because Hugo is 25, Sergey is 27, um, and Luciole, he's 21. Arnaud is 19, so it's fine, I guess. But I have reasons why he's not fine later down the road. But either way, too many adult men dating this 17-year-old. That's a little unfortunate.
Get
Um,
out of here.
I think if they had made her like 21 or 20 or something, I would have felt a little bit more comfortable with it. But then that would have made one of the other characters uncomfortable. But they could have just aged him up too. Like, I don't know. I know that this is a thing they do in Atome games, but it's just unfortunate. It's not something I'm a big fan of, as you are well aware of. It just makes me feel like everybody's a creep,
Hmm.
and it kind of makes it hard for me to like actually like them because I'm like, bro, she would be in high school if this was not like this. Um, Another thing is that I didn't realize going into this that this would be like an alternate history version of like between the world wars.
Hmm.
Like that was nowhere in the marketing that I was given. And when I got to that, I was like, huh? Like it was cool and I was excited about it. And then, I was going through and trying to figure out like, well, what year would this actually take place in? And there's some inconsistencies. So I couldn't actually nail down a year exactly, but it is between the world wars. I can say that for certain. So that was interesting. Kind of wild. Um, Any other general thoughts before I hop into these boys? Wait a minute, I'm gonna rephrase that until
Oh boy.
until I hop into talking about these boys.
Hon hon hon.
Oui, baguette.
Oui baguette.
Um,
Croissant.
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 Um, all right, sure. So let's talk about Hugo because he's the one I started with. He was like the recommended first route, which is
Victor
wild.
Hugo.
You wouldn't think that Hugo would be the one that you would start with because he's like, the poster boy. Um, but it kind of sets everything up, so it makes sense. Um, But yeah, he's the one that kind of sets all this in motion. Like I said, he recognizes you, which is a big deal, and knows that you're a witch and asks you to free everybody. He also has like a Joestar thing going on, which you can kind of see in that one picture on like the fourth tab where he's got like the stars on his deck.
Ah,
Um,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah, he's got like a reverse Joestar going. Um, yeah, he's the director. Um, he is trying very hard to free everyone from their chains of amusement parkness. But he's also trying really hard to encourage Emma to like hone her witch abilities. And his whole thing is that like he knew you 7 years ago, which again, she was 10. Um, and he was 18. And they were friends, apparently. Um, but yeah, he was a mechanic that worked at her dad's amusement park. And he was a grumpy little guy, and Emma's dad's like, you should be friends with him because maybe he won't be so grumpy if you're friends with him. She's like, hey, let's be friends, and also I'll show you my magic. Do you think witches are bad? He's like, no, witches are great. Um, and he ends up making her like a small version of the carousel because he builds the carousel. He's the one who builds the carousel. Um, and it becomes this thing that she's super, super excited about. But um, this was 7 years prior to this whole situation, which means that we were in the middle of World War One, and there was a shortage of materials, and they're like, "Hey, we're the military, and what if we tell you that you don't need an amusement park, and we would like all your medals?"
No, my amusement park.
No, my amusement park. Um, And so Emma's dad is trying to protect everything. They're dismantling the whole park. Hugo is also protesting pretty hard. Meow, yeah, he's protesting. And this is where you find out that like you're the reason why everybody's trapped here because Hugo is standing in the way of the like French officer who wants to dismantle um the carousel, and he's just refusing, and so the officer like straight up shoots him in the neck, which is where the stars are.
Hmm.
And then he like comes closer to try and like completely finish the job, and Emma gets in the way, and the bullet like ricochets off of her like witchy necklace. um and at that point it like amplified her witch powers, and she basically like cast a spell to make sure that he doesn't die. But by doing that, she one like put her witch abilities to like hibernation, but two, now he can't leave the amusement park, and also like the amusement park has become like like I said, this thing that like attracts people who are like near death, and they get stuck there. So that's all wild. And so then Emma realizes like if I if I free everybody, what's that gonna do to you? And Hugo's like, oh, I'll die.
LOL.
And she's like, what? What do you mean? And she like talks to her like childhood friend guy that she lives with. He's a reporter, and he goes and finds information. He's like, yeah, so it turns out that like Hugo's body is in a hospital that like the military's been paying to keep him alive for these 7 years, but like he's been in a coma. He's Never even had any kind of indication that he'd wake up and it kind of seems like he's on the edge of death all the time. So, yeah, he's telling you the truth. He might die if you free him. Cool. Um, so yeah, that makes things a little bit more complicated, yeah?
Just a bit.
Yeah. So there are two ways that this can play out. One is that like, they have their love story, which I'm not convinced by it. For a multitude of reasons, but like he's not convincing as a love interest to me. Um, but also it just feels weird because it's like you knew her when she was 10. Ugh.
Icky.
Yeah. So one is that she is able to like free everybody, but she's also like somehow imbued magic into Hugo so that he won't actually die. And so, takes him a bit to get back up and running, but he does live through the whole thing, and then they like start traveling abroad to look at how other countries do amusement parks. Particularly, they go to Coney Island, and they bang a lot.
And someone's like, "Hey, I walk it here.
Basically, yeah.
Hey, Toots,
Um,
you want to go to the amusement park?"
in his bad ending, basically like she can't get past the idea that she might potentially kill him. And so when she tries to cast a spell to free the amusement park, she ends up like chaining herself to it instead. So now she's stuck there too.
Oops.
Oops. Um, Hugo in every other route in this game gives off big like dad vibes. Like he feels like the dad of the group. And so like in his route too, I'm like, you still kind of feel like the dad of the group and less of a romantic option. Um, it's also really weird because like he's talking about drinking all the time, and I'm like, she's like, I'm not old enough to drink. I'm like, I know you're not. Um, but I really do like Hugo as a character. I don't like him as a love interest.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like in every other route, he's kind of like this um like goofy, kind of aloof, um supportive, like dad kind of character. And it's a lot of fun. Like he's a fun character. He's a really fun dude. I don't like his romance route. Um so I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to start this, I guess. Hopefully the next one gets better. And then we get to Sergey. Um Sergey is 27 years old. Yep. And makes a note of like, oh no, I'm having this person who is 10 years younger than me feed me. Oh no. And I'm like, ugh. Um, it's like, bro, you're damn near 30. Come on. Um, yeah, he's like your super, super cold character, basically is like grumpy at everybody. Um, all he cares about is like, are we making our money back from doing this amusement park thing? Um, And he like wants nothing to do with Emma at first. He thinks she's a bother. Just bleh. And he sends her away to like go clean up a storage room. And Hugo has been storing some broken automatons in there, which by the way, Hugo built all the automatons too, so there's that. Um but one of the automatons like tries to fall on Emma, and uh Sergey like puts up his arm to block it, and Emma hears like a really weird sound. And then they leave. Hugo's like, "Wow, I feel real bad that my automaton tried to fall on you and basically murder you. That sucks. I'm sorry." And then he looks at Sergey and he's like, "Oh, hey, your arm. Do we need to do some repairs on that?" Uh, Sergey's like, "Yeah, I guess we do." So he takes off his jacket and you realize, "Oh my God, he's got a fake arm.
Cool.
He's got like a robo automaton arm. It's really kind of cool, actually." Um, and you find out that like there was a child who was about to get like run over by like a horse and buggy type situation.
A reindeer.
Not a reindeer. It was a horse. But Sergey saved the kid, but ended up getting run over and um was like real borked up. And Hugo uh gave him a new arm, but also gave him a new heart. Like his heart stopped, so he built him like an automaton heart.
All right.
Yeah. So basically his heart is run on the magic from the park. So if he leaves the park, he has like a 3 to 4 hour time limit on like how long his heart will actually keep working. So yeah. Whoa. Um, and so how do we get here? How do we get to the romance? Hugo is a conniving little butthead and is like, "Hey, Sergey, your arm's a little busted, right? Like, you should have her be your arm technician. Make sure everything's all right." And Sergey's like, "Dude, you're just gonna trust a girl like from a random town in France to take care of my arm? Like, what is wrong with you? She's never done any automaton work before." He was like, "Hey, I knew her dad. He was really smart about this stuff. She's got it in her. I believe in her." It's like, okay. So
At least
she,
someone does.
yeah, so she becomes like the arm maintenance girl. Um, but in the meantime, she's also like, "I want to help you. I want to help you do like your work." And he's like, "Hey, do you know how to do accounting?" He's like, "No." And he's like, "Then you're worthless. You can't do my job. Get out of here."
Thanks.
Thanks. So she realizes that like the way to help him is to feed him. So she starts making him food so he'll stop eating just bread because he can only eat bread with like one hand. So she's trying to get him stuff that he can eat easily with one hand until they like fix his arm. And they make a weird statement about like how he's unlike most Frenchmen because he likes spicy food. And I was like, is that something that like French are not known for? Like I'm unaware of a stereotype here other than like, white people.
There you go.
That's the only thing I think of, but I more think of like, British white people as the like no spicy people.
Right.
But I don't know, maybe French white people are also not spicy people.
Oh, do not give me the spice.
So she makes him food and feeds him and all that. And again, this is the whole thing where he's like, "A girl 10 years younger than me is feeding me." Blah! Um, but hey, his story takes a weird turn. Because do you want to hear about human trafficking?
Oh boy.
Yay! Um, so we learned that before he was at the amusement park, he was in the French military, and that he was working with this guy whose name I cannot remember for the life of me at the moment, who was his buddy, his war buddy, I guess. And they still meet up sometimes and chat. And they find out that there has been like this oh shoot, what's the name of that like fairy tale uh where the oh shoot, what is the name of the thing?
You're not giving me a lot to work on here.
No, I'm not. It's a story where I know there's like a dog and a cat and maybe a donkey that it like basically people get like spirited away by them.
No idea.
Um, Pied Piper of Hamelin. Yes, that's it.
Nailed it.
Um, I found it. So yeah, there's this whole thing about like the Hamelin incident where like all these women keep going missing. And the military has been trying to like keep it kind of hush hush. And you find out that like they're trying to blame the amusement park for all these women going missing because you know they showed up and then all these gals are gone. But it turns out that like the military is taking them because they're witches and they're experimenting on them. Great. And so yeah, Sergey is basically like, well, I'm gonna break into this like military compound type thing. I'm gonna get the documentation. We're gonna like reveal this whole situation. Um, we can't let this go on. This sucks. Um, and Emma goes with him because she can keep his heart fueled basically with magic. So she keeps having to like do weird little magic infusion type things on him. Just sure. So yeah, their whole thing is that um they get this whole situation resolved. It gets like really brutal at one point, like he gets tortured and they're like beating the hell out of him and um I think he ends up like breaking a man's hand at one point. There's a lot that happens. Um but basically like everything is revealed. Woo! Um
Woo!
and then she frees everybody. Woo!
Woo!
Um, and in like the good end, she's basically able to like infuse all of her magic into him so that like he doesn't have to worry about the heart situation anymore, which is good. And his bad ending, he just lays on her lap while she waits for his heart to die. So he'll die. Ooh.
Woo!
Ooh. Um, yeah, it's a shame about this dude because he's a good looking dude. And I kind of liked him, but then I was also like, you're not doing it for me, man. Especially when I found out that he was 27. Um, all right. You ready for the best character?
Let's go.
Krieg. I did not expect to like this dude.
It's his fancy hat, isn't it?
It's not his fancy hat. So, I'm not usually like a big fan of the like tsundere characters, you know?
Yeah.
It's just not really my thing. I want somebody to be nice to me. Like I'm playing a game for people to like be nice and romantic, not like be mad at me all the time. Um, so I was like, I'm probably not gonna like this dude. No, he's fantastic. He's so good. Krieg is like the saving grace of everything in this game. And his route is like super silly and it makes no sense and I don't care. I don't care at all. Um, So yeah, he is your tsundere guy. He's like I said, the performer of the crew. He does like juggling and all kinds of magic tricks and that kind of thing. Um and the protag realizes like, oh, he has an interesting relationship with Clara. Like, I wonder what's going on there. And, of course, she thinks like, oh, well, there must be a thing. And I'm looking at them, I'm like, they're obviously not. They're obviously siblings. They look alike. Um,
Impossible.
I'm just like, really? You can't figure this out? Spoiler alert, she can't. She can't figure it out. Um, like, hold on. I'm gonna send you a thing. You ready?
Uh huh.
Why didn't it go? You might have to copy paste it. Like they're very obviously related.
No, I don't see it. Clearly, they're very two different people, not at all remotely connected in any sort of way.
I was just like, are you kidding me? Like why is she like this? Why is she I sent you another one. Um like they look the same. Um but anyway, she's confused. She's like, he likes her and he's nice to her. It's really weird. Why does he like that with me? Um and at one point they like have a minor bonding moment over sweets, which is cute. Um but yeah, she like talks to Clara at one point and is like, "Hey, what's going on with you and Kriye?" And she's like, "That's our brother. That's my twin. We're twins." Like, huh? What do you mean you're twins? And they're like, yeah, we're twins. Don't know what else to tell you. We came out at the same time. Except for Kriya is technically older and brings it up a few times. Um, so that gets resolved really quickly, which is good. I was worried they were gonna like draw that out, but they didn't. What they did draw out is hilarious. And again, it makes no sense and I don't care because it's fun. Um, Clara's basically like, all right, Kriye, you're being a butthead to her, and I don't understand why you're being a butthead to her, and you're gonna be alone forever, and you kind of suck. So, like, what if you just kind of do this whole, like, trial dating thing with her? And so, Kriye and Emma are like, all right, I guess we'll do this whole fake dating trope thing. I was like, hell yeah, fake dating, let's go. So they're trying to do this whole like play it up for everybody that we're dating and totally not falling in love at the same time. That's not happening. Let's go on dates. Let's hang out. Let's talk about our dreams. Normal things that you definitely don't do when you're just being buds and pals and not falling in love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So yeah, like it's completely contrived and I love it. It's stupid. It's fantastic. Um, and so the whole time she's just like, "Hey, how's it going? Is everything going all right?" And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, it's all good." Claire's like, eyebrow waggle. Everything's going well, huh? Um, but yeah, at one point, like they end up going on like one of their dates, and it's a really cute date, but Kriye basically like explains that his dream is to um is to basically like perform at hospitals and like make people happy that are, otherwise in a hard time. That he likes doing like hospital visits. He likes hanging out with like old people and making them happy, and he likes hanging out with I was gonna say like hanging out with kids. That sounds weird, but like that's not what I mean. Um, which by the way, he's 17. So I was like, hell yeah, y'all are the same age. This is great. But yeah, he goes through that whole thing and then like reveals like yeah, Clara is basically like dead. Like she's been in a coma for years. She was sickly. They snuck out and went to the theme park because he wanted to like give her a good time because she was always in and out of the hospital and having a hard time. And so they went to the theme park and she ended up like collapsing at the theme park. And so her body is in a hospital and, being kept alive, but her soul is like tied to the theme park. And so Krie has been going along with the amusement park because like he feels guilty for taking her out. He feels responsible for the whole thing, which is sad and inaccurate, but you know, you do what you got to do. Um, so then it kind of makes his dream make sense of like this is why he wants to go to hospitals specifically and do his performances because like his sister's been in hospitals and he sees like what it's like. He wants to make these people happy. And Clara basically says like his dream has always been to be a performer. Like don't let him tell you anything different because he basically has this idea that like he can't do the things that he wants to do because he has to be responsible for Clara and take care of her. Clara's like, "Nah, it's dumb. You're dumb. Do your thing." But yeah, it's actually really interesting. And Emma ends up being like his assistant at one point, which is really cute. They get into a rhythm where she can like help him do his routines. And they go through the whole thing of like if I free everybody at the amusement park, like what happens to Clara? Are you going to be okay? And he ends up coming to the realization of like, this isn't a life for her to live, and Clara is basically like, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. Like it's fine. We got to do what we got to do, right? We got to move on. Um Also, he gets like an offer to do like an exclusive hospital like residency, I guess, of like being an entertainer at this one hospital. Um, he ends up turning it down because he's like, I want to travel. But yeah, good end is obviously like it's everybody's freed. Clara is okay. She starts like recovering. She wakes up from the coma. And Krie and Emma end up being like traveling performers, going to a bunch of different hospitals, doing their routines. And he has like this really, really cute moment that's like a really realistic moment of him being like, I feel bad for this. Like, I don't want to have to drag you into it because, like, I'm going to be a traveling performer and, like, sometimes that's going to be hard. Like, finances aren't going to be stable. You kind of do what you got to do to get by. Like I wish I could give you better than that, but I can't. Like this is my dream. This is what I want to do. Like if you're okay with that, then like let's do this thing. I was like, how is this the 17-year-old dude who's having like the most responsible and
The most mature.
right, the most mature and it's the Sundari character. But like actual good communication and like having a real conversation of like this is the reality of what I've chosen to do. Like if you want to come along with for the ride, I would love to have you because I'm in love with you. But like I understand if not because I know that's a hard life. I was like, damn, son, good for you. Um, his bad end is very tragic though. Because in his bad end, Clara dies and he basically like shatters and he has to him and Emma go back to his like parents' house and he like breaks all of his equipment and stops performing and basically gets like super super depressed and at one point he like runs away. He stopped eating he runs away to the cemetery and Emma finds him there. And he like is crying and begs her like erase my memory of Clara entirely. Like that's the only way that this is like I can get better. Like I don't want to remember her. I don't want to remember that this exists. This sucks. And so like the bad end is essentially Emma erasing the existence of Clara from like his memory, but also like everybody else's memories so that there's no inconsistencies. And so like basically makes it so that she like never existed to people. And like Kriei wakes up on her like tombstone's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know who you are, but I'm sorry that I was on your tombstone. Anyway, you want to go do performing?"
Yay!
And I'm like, "Oh God, that's so sad. That's so sad." It made me really bummed out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really, really liked him. I did not expect to like him as much as I did. But he was like by and far the clear fave. Um, it's like, damn, look at you go, kid. Good for you. And then I dated a rabbit.
You know, from one end to the other.
Yeah. So he's in a mascot costume, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big rabbit mascot and he's the mascot of the theme park. That's what he is. And basically the only person who's ever seen what he looks like is Hugo. Everybody else is like, yeah, like he eats through the costume. Like his spoon can just like warp through the costume so he can eat.
I mean, that's
Uh,
pretty good.
it's pretty cool, yeah. But everyone's like, yeah, he just looks like that. It's just what he is. But it turns out like at night he transforms into like a human form, but he doesn't like people to see his human form, so he never goes out. So Hugo is the only one who knows about it. Again, dad behavior, right? He's like, "Oh, it's okay, kid. We'll figure this out."
Yep.
Um, so Rabbit Man is named Leon, and he is 15 years old. And his route felt weird because it felt like I was dating a kid the whole time.
I mean, to be fair.
A 15-year-old is a kid.
Yeah.
But he's like, I love picture books and I want to make a picture book. And do you want to go up into the like library of the amusement park and read picture books with me? And I'm like,
That's not normal 15-year-old behavior, I would say.
no, like it genuinely feels like he's like 7 or 8 years old.
Right.
It's really awkward and uncomfortable. Um, but he ends up saying some things that like trigger a memory for her, and then she has like a vision, and she realized like, oh, there was a picture book that I read as a kid that reminds me of some of the things that you said. Like that's strange. And so she goes and she's like trying to find this picture book in town, and she finds a bookkeeper or bookseller guy who sells books. Uh, he's like, yeah, I know of the book, but like it's really expensive to find because it's out of print. The author ended up having like a really horrible thing happen, and she stopped making books, and so like now the book is it's hard to get and it's really expensive. Like you wouldn't be able to afford it even if you did find it, which like damn, get f***ed, I guess. Um, but she ends up going to Hugo, and he's like, "Oh, I have a copy of it. Do you want to read it?" "Mm, duh, that's why I came to you." So she goes through it and she realizes like he has she's right. Like he verbatim said some of the words from the book. Like a lot of the things from the amusement park look like things in the book. And he can't remember anything up to this point other than the fact that his name is Leon. And as she like talks to him about this book a little bit, like it reminds him that his mom was a picture book author, and that his name is Leon. I don't know, how do you say orange in French?
Like in general, or
Yeah, like his last name is Orange, but it's French, so it wouldn't be pronounced orange.
no, I used to say orange. It's fine.
Really?
I think it would be funny if you just said orange.
Okay, so he's Leon Orange.
Yeah, there you
Um
go.
and so he realized like, oh, my mom was this picture book author and I want to do that. I want to make a picture book for her and give it to her. Like obviously I'm stuck here for now, but like I want to make sure I get it to her. So he starts working on this picture book and is letting Emma read through it. And it's this whole story about like this rabbit who ends up like basically having to make sacrifices to like help some of his fellow critters. I forget exactly how the plot goes, but anyway, he ends up like being thanked by a god of some sort and then becoming a constellation where he's a lion instead of a rabbit. And I'm sure none of this is going to be important or anything. And then he's trying to find an ending because like, it's kind of sad to just have him become like a star and he watches over everybody but like can't actually interact with them anymore. Like that's sad. Um and so he eventually does come up with the idea with Emma that like the god basically at one point thinks that Leon's like done enough and essentially like reincarnates him. And so he becomes a real lion after that. So he finishes the picture book and Emma mails it to his mom and they end up getting a letter back and Hugo's like terrified when they get this letter. And he's like, I should have had a conversation with you guys before you did this. This is not good. They open the letter and it basically says like, my son's dead. This is a really cruel prank to like pretend that you're him. Like, don't ever contact me again. It's like, oh, yikes. Um, so yeah, you find out, hey, Leon's dead. Like dead, dead, not like coma dead. Like he's dead. He's buried. Oops.
Oops.
But like he is like become tied to this place, and I forget exactly how that happened. But anyway, he did. Um, and so Emma basically realized like I have to talk to his mom. Like there something's got to happen. Um, oh, I don't think the picture. No, she doesn't send the picture book. He sends a letter saying that he wants to send her the picture book, and that's when the letter comes back. So Emma takes the picture book to her. And it's basically like, hey, you know, I was definitely your son's friend in the hospital, and he was working on this, and he gave it to me, and there's only one copy, so I want you to have it. But yeah, I was in the hospital with him, definitely not anything else. And so she gives the picture book to her mom, to his mom, sorry. Um, and his mom gives like a picture of him in exchange to be like, I want you to have this to remember him by. Like, thank you for giving me this book. Um, and so she's like, yep, that's Leon. That's what he looks like when he's not in that costume. All right, interesting. Anyway, I've got to go back to the park. And I'm gonna talk to Hugo about like what's going on here. And wow, Hugo has a book about like resurrecting people. That should be fine, right?
Totally.
And he's like, you can't do that. That's bad news. It will like wipe your memory if you even try it. Um, and so she basically decides like, I'm going to do the whole freeing ceremony thing, whatever. Um, That's her plan. Um, she ends up like smooching him a lot. And then instead of like doing the actual like witchy thing to free them, she does like the resurrection spell and her magic kind of goes haywire and Leon like jumps in and is protecting her from her own magic and um becomes this whole thing. She ends up coming out fine. But when she wakes up, like nobody's there. It's just her and like the carousel. She's like, "Oh, well, I guess I freed everybody, but the spell didn't work. He didn't resurrect." Um, so she's sad about that, but then she like keeps living her life. And it she'll go back to the hill where like the library for the amusement park was, where they hung out all the time. She would go there every day. And then eventually, like, she sees a guy there that looks a lot like Leon did. And he's like, "Hi, I don't know you. I'm a little scared of what's going on, but like, I feel like I know you, and I want to talk to you a lot." And so there's no real explanation of like, obviously it's supposed to go along with a picture book of like he was reincarnated, but like it says that his mom's aware of him being alive, like everything, he lives with his mom, he's fine, like all that. Like he never really died. So I don't understand how this whole resurrection thing works. But I guess I'm not supposed to. I don't know. I would have liked a little bit more explanation on that.
Right.
But um all good, I guess. And in his bad ending, they basically just both get stuck in the amusement park and they stay there together um forever. Yay. But yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, he was a little uncomfortable because of the whole like acting like a child situation. I wasn't into that. So then Luciole, he's the one that is the mechanic. Um, you literally see him like once on the common route and everybody else's route, so I knew like nothing about him until I got on his route, which was kind of weird. He is like the shut-in character, wants nothing to do with anybody, doesn't trust people, but also does not want her to free the park. Is like very adamant against it, like that this is not happening, you're not doing it. The end. Um, he's also like not in his route a lot, which is
Weird.
unusual. Like a lot of their communication during his route is taking place via letter. Like they leave letters to each other outside of his tent. Like that's how you communicate with him, which is very, very weird. Like that's not what I would expect from an Atome, you know? You actually like usually talk to the guy.
I mean, usually, yes, that's correct.
Um, but Emma ends up having a conversation with Hugo where he's like, "Yeah, Luciole like doesn't take care of himself and he doesn't eat and he hates magic and blah 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 blah." And so Emma's like, "Oh, well, maybe he doesn't eat because like the amusement park's food is all made with magic. So what if I make him food by hand, like the old-fashioned way, and maybe he'll eat that then." So she makes him like some soup or something. Um, and he ends up being real jazzed about that and starts making requests and um that's how they form their relationship is because he's like, "Hi, I like your soup. Can you make more liquids? This is great. Thank you." The end. Um so they end up talking a bit more eventually. She gets him to like come and eat with her as opposed to like just dropping food off. Um, and he ends up explaining like he doesn't want to be free from this because like he feels safe at the amusement park that like his mom was a witch and in the town where they lived um they found out that she was a witch and basically tried to make their lives super super hard and like the first time they were found out they were like throwing rocks at them. He was a kid and his mom was like putting her body over him to protect him from the rocks. Um, and then they end up like cutting them off from food and all kinds of wild things because like, witches are bad. Um, and then his mom committed suicide. Yikes.
Yikes.
Um, so he ended up like wandering around after that whole thing. Well, he was in an orphanage until he was 18. Then he started wandering around. And he ended up at the amusement park. He became the mechanic and um that's how it all played out. But now he's here and he's attached to it. Um at one point they have like a thought of like Emma is not progressing enough in her witchly abilities. And Lucille is like, "Hey, there's a witch in my mom's hometown that like she's, kind of keeping it on the down low, but maybe we could have her train Emma like that. Maybe that would work." Um, but we got to be careful because my hometown, they don't like witches. I'm sure this will be fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not
Oh.
fine. So they meet the witchy friend. She's like, "Yeah, I'll help her. That's a good idea." Um, but at one point, Emma is walking through town with Kriye, and she sees this like drunk man is, wandering around being drunk and running into stuff, and he like runs into a bunch of boxes which are gonna fall onto like a store worker. And she uses magic and like flings the boxes the other direction so that they don't injure the store worker. And then the drunk man's like, "You're a witch!" Wah! Um, and turns the town against her, and they end up like beating her up and throwing rocks at her and all that. And Kriye is able to like grab her and get her out of there, but like they're both just like beat to absolute. Um, and she's like out for a long time. She like basically goes unconscious. So then he's even more like, "Hey, I gotta protect you from people because you're a witch, and obviously people can't be trusted around witches, but I'm in love with you." So like he becomes like the weird possessive character.
Oh, great.
Yeah, love that. Um, at least I guess his good end. Um, basically like an angry mob comes to the park and is trying to find her, and he ends up like putting himself between like the mob and her and is able to like convince them that she did the right thing by using her like witchly powers to save him, the guy. And the guy's like, "Yeah, actually, I was gonna get crushed by that box and she saved me, so like I'm not real mad about it." And the drunk man's like, "No, she's a witch. You're supposed to listen to me." And they're like, "No, man, you're just trying to cover up the fact that you were drunk. You suck." So that's the good ending. They retreat. Um, and he like accepts, okay, you should free everybody. We'll see what happens. There is literally no explanation on what happens here.
Great.
Like she frees everybody. Obviously he's gone. Krie's there, Sergei's there, and they're like, so she goes back home and like waits for like months. And she like goes to a cafe at one point and starts crying, and then like somebody pulls out a chair next to her, is like, "Hey, why are you crying? That's kind of weird." And she looks up and it's him, and I was like, why? Who? Whomst? Um, Also there's no like actual clear indication as to like, everybody else had some kind of reason why they were tied to it. And like the best that I can gather is that like he was so depressed he didn't eat, and so he was like dying because of that. If that makes any sense, but like there's no explanation of where his body was. There's no explanation if he's like in a coma or if he's dead or what happens. He just shows back up and is like, "Hey, by the way, let's reignite this thing, baby."
It's funny how like he's the one who just like is adamant about not doing it, and then like they don't even have an explanation for like why he's even there to like further push that agenda.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. His is like the weakest of all of the routes, which was kind of a bummer. Like I like his design. I think his design's really cool. But like I don't like possessive characters. I think it's really creepy, which we'll talk about that more in his bad end. Like his story is kind of whack. There's no explanation on like why he came back, which is weird. There's no explanation as to why he's like tied to the park, which is weird. Like everybody else had some kind of reason why they were there, and he's just not. And then he just shows back up. Like, what? Huh? Huh? Help! Um, his bad end is basically like the mob doesn't listen, and he ends up basically like messing with her, like trying to free everybody, and like traps her in the park with him. And it's basically like, I don't want you to ever go around anyone else, and so we're gonna be here together, and like holding on to her. And I'm like, ooh.
Together forever.
Like at least some of the other ones, it felt like it was a mutual, like, we'll stay here type thing. But like he initiated this one, is basically like, I have to be the one to protect you. You're staying here whether you like it or not. And I was like, ugh,
Ugh, gug, 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 gug.
don't like that. Also, again, he's 21, which is you're pushing it, buddy. You're pushing it. Um, and then we get Arnaud. Is that how you say his name?
Arno?
Arnaud? Wait, but it's got a D at the end.
Oh,
Do
let's look.
do not say D's in French.
Oh,
I mean, I can make him say it in the game if you want. Ha
oh.
ha ha. Do you want me to make him say it?
What if I do a pronunciation here?
Okay, do it.
Uh, there's like there's like a bajillion different pronunciations they say here.
Oh no. Like my
Or like,
assumption is it's some kind of like Arnold type name.
yeah, Arno.
Arnaud?
Hmm.
Okay, well, that why is there a D in there then?
Well, you don't necessarily, sometimes you don't pronounce letters in French. They're just there for fun.
Well, I guess Kriye is the same kind of way.
They're just there to have a good time.
Okay, so Arnaud, um, he's your childhood friend. You live with him. You live with his mom. His dad is in the French military, but he's still back in Paris. Um, Everything is mostly fine in this route. Yay, we're friends. And also like basically in his initial chapter, like as soon as you get out of the common round, he's like, by the way, I'm in love with you. And we should have a conversation about this. And like, I don't mean as like my sister or my friend or whatever. Like, I'm really in love with you. And like, I had like a response on that. It's like, whoa, that's a quick love confession. Something's gonna happen here.
Forward.
Very forward. Um, and so she's like, flustered by it. She's excited by it. She's gonna like tell him that she's in love with him too after thinking about it for a bit. And then she goes to his room to try and like let him know how she feels. And she finds a letter that he wrote to his dad that he hasn't sent yet. And finds out like, oh, he's been like reporting on me to his dad in Paris about like my witch abilities. And she's like, has this been fake the whole time? Like, has he been like pretending that he cares about me just so he can like do these reports for his dad? Like, what's going on here? This is messed up. Um, and so this, becomes a whole thing. And at one point, his dad comes back from Paris and is like, hey, by the way, how your witch abilities going? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Uh, what witch abilities? Um, and so he like basically has his like weird military goons restrain her and is like, you're coming with me. Come on, come on. Um, he like declares that the amusement park dudes are, or the amusement park as a whole is like the enemy, and takes her into custody and like puts her basically at her house arrest at his house. And then she like at one point is in a room with the dad and Arnaud, and is asking like, I need an explanation on what's happening here. Like this is real messed up. And you find out like, oh, so the dad is basically saying like Arnaud as a kid, so he would have been 12 at this point, was like going to the amusement park and he like ended up getting a crush on Emma. Sure, whatever. Like Emma's showing him around the park. He thinks that she's cool. But he's like real jealous of Hugo because they're friends. Again, he's 18 years old. Um, and he was like, I can't ever get her away from Hugo to like spend time with her. I want to spend time with her because I have a crush on her. And so he ends up like having a conversation with his dad about it, and his dad's like, an amusement park, you say? What if I go to the amusement park and dismantle it? Oh, his dad's the one that shot Hugo.
Oops.
Yep. So the whole reveal is that like he saw this as an opportunity to like take the land and take the medals and everything from the amusement park, but also like a side effect of this is that he found a witch in Emma, and he's like, all right, cool, cool, cool. And then Emma's dad tried to like fight him when he was taking Emma away, and he ended up just like shooting him in the head. And so
Yikes.
so like that's how Emma's dad actually died. And that's been kept from her this whole time. And so they brought her in because his dad's like, I want to have access to a witch because having witches to use for the French military would be great. Also, my son like has a crush on her, so this is an opportunity to like make him happy. Um, shot Hugo. Uh, cool, I guess.
No big deal.
Um, and so Emma's like, you know, obviously very betrayed and very hurt by this whole thing. And she basically looks at Arnaud and is like, is all this true? Like, did you know about this and you just kept it from me? He's like, yeah, and everything he says true. Uh, so then, she basically throws up double middle fingers and is like, I don't ever want to hear from you again. I don't want to see you again. They still have her under house arrest, so she just stops eating. Um, he like tries to reenact at one point, like him coming to like see her after she had lost her memory because like when she was 10, she lost that memory. So she started living with him and he came in and was like, hey, we've been friends forever. And, I'm sorry you don't remember me, but let me reintroduce myself and here are some cookies. Yay. So he tries to do that again. And Emma's like, nah, nah, you lied to me. I am not about this. So he ends up like shoving macarons in her mouth to try and like make her eat something. And it ends up becoming this whole like convoluted thing of like all of these witch hunts have been orchestrated by his dad. He's trying to like utilize the ability of witches to be like a super weapon for the French military because he says that, things are brewing and it's going to get bad soon, which is not inaccurate. We're between world wars, but like at the same time, um, and Arnaud ends up like showing up a few times in like a military outfit, and she's like, "Is that what you're doing now? Like you're not even a reporter anymore? Like you work under your dad?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's I got appointed to this job. That's what I'm doing." And Sergey ends up making contact with the friend that I had mentioned in his route, and they end up coming up with like a plan to free Emma. Uh, which cool, that works. And then she finds out that like Arnaud is basically like running the current witch hunts because his dad had an agreement with him that like if he found a replacement witch that he would free Emma, which is obviously not going to happen, but like he feels like it's supposed to happen. Um like they try and do this whole like redemption thing of like he wasn't actually bad, he was just trying to help you type thing. I'm like, no, no, he did some real messed up stuff. Like, eh. Um,
Not about that.
yeah, they end up having this whole thing where like she gets upset about it. Her like witch powers get out of control. He uses that as an opportunity to like get her, like basically hide her away, and they go on the run. And then he ends up like coming up with this plan to basically confront his dad. And that's the whole plan is we're gonna confront dad and everything's gonna be fine. And it's he pulls a gun on him. He pulls a gun on his dad. But basically like he has all the documentation. He's, a reporter, so he gives it to like newspaper, but he also gives it to like the military and they investigate his dad and they like strip him of his ranks and all that fun stuff. And then Arnaud ends up like in a small amount of trouble because, he's doing all these witch hunts, but it was basically like he gets off for the most part because like it was um what's the word I'm looking for? He was coerced into doing it. Is that
Sure.
is that the right word?
That sounds right.
Yeah. Um so yeah, that's the gist of that whole thing. It's like I said, they try really hard to be like, he wasn't bad. He was just trying to help this whole time. It was just his own way and, doing this whole thing with his dad. I'm like, oh, this. Hmm.
Sounds bad.
Yeah, I wasn't about it. Like, it felt very manipulative, and like, I don't feel like there was enough done to redeem him. So that was kind of uncomfortable. And then there was this whole like, he's still jealous of Hugo this whole time, and I'm like, bro, like you haven't moved past that at all? Come on, come on, come on. Um, I forget exactly how it happens in her bad end, but basically she ends up losing her memory again. Like she ends up losing her witch abilities and losing her memory. And they do the whole like introduction thing again of like, "Hi, I'm Arno. I'm your childhood friend. We've known each other forever. I'm gonna shake your hand, but now we're an adult. Yay!" And I'm like,
Manipulative.
it's very manipulative. I don't I it made me really uncomfortable. Um, so yeah, after that, there is like the after story that you get. I forget what it's called. It says it in the menu. Oh God, I'm never gonna be able to say this word. Um, I want to type it to you.
The pee pee poo poo.
That's not it.
What? Come on. The denouement.
Denouement. What does that mean?
I definitely knew about this. The final outcome of the main dramatic complication in a novel play film, the denouement.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Denouement.
Denouement.
Oh.
Um, this is basically like the harem ending.
Oh, great.
Um, she ends up like being at the park, um, and everybody's there and everybody's alive, and I I don't remember how it happens. It doesn't really matter all that much, but essentially everybody's there, everybody's in love with you, and everybody's arguing about who gets to spend time with you. And it's like your traditional, like, I guess in this case it'd be a reverse harem. I don't know, but I feel like harem could be gender neutral, maybe.
That's a weird way to wrap things up.
Yeah. So everybody's in love with you, everybody's spending time with you, and I guess it's just a big weird love orgy at the amusement park.
Yippee!
Yeah, and Clara's there, I guess too.
Yay!
Yay.
All right.
It just felt out of place and kind of weird that
Sure. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
how
yeah.
it ended. I was like, oh, okay, because like everything else, wasn't like that.
No.
It just felt kind of goofy. Um,
Yuck.
but I mean, I guess the good thing is like everybody's alive and everybody's fine and there's no tragic happening. So yay.
Yay!
Yay.
Question mark.
Question mark.
Well, all right then.
All right then.
I think now we gotta rank it.
We do have to rank it.
We do gotta rank it. All right, this will be game number 45 on Al's official ranking of Atome.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you like to start with Genso Manège?
Mm. How about we start at 35?
1 second. All right,
Okay.
35. Another, similar type of game,
Mm-hmm.
at least in theme.
Yeah.
Is this better or worse than Radiant Tail Fanfare?
I think it is better.
Is it better than Mr. Love?
Yes.
Is it better than Joe Star Struck?
Yes.
Is it better than Nor 9 Var Commons?
Yes.
Is it better than Pio Fiore Episodio 1926?
Yes.
Is it better than Radiant Tail?
I'm trying to decide which of these I liked better,
Mm-hmm.
and I might give it to this one over Radiant Tail, and that
Okay.
that would just be a Kree hard carry, honestly. Like Kree hard carried this game. So yeah, I would say it would go above Radiant Tail.
Does it go above Variable Barricade, though?
I think it's gonna just land where
At number
at
30?
number 30.
Our new number 30.
Yeah, so It's around middle-ish. It's not actually middle-ish at all, but it's fine.
It's like the final third.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Kree hard carried.
Well, there you go. Our new number 30,
Hmm.
Genso Manège.
Yeah. So
Ho,
again,
ho, ho.
thank you, PQ, for the code. That was very kind of you. I'm glad that I got to hang out with Kree because he was a fun character. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about the whole shebang?
Those last two routes did not sound good.
No. And like having those as like, because you can't even do the Arno route until like you've done routes. So he like unlocks later.
Oof.
Um, but like it was kind of like a weird wet fart way to end it, you know?
Yeah.
Like some of the other routes were much better. Even like, I wasn't happy with Sergey, but like I liked his route fine. Like I liked Hugo's route fine. Um, I
Like
had
there was
ish.
something to be found, like enjoyable to be found in those earlier routes, at least in like those
Yeah,
first four,
yeah.
maybe the first three per se. And then like once you get to like Rabbit
But Bunny
Man,
Rabbit Man,
Leon,
Leon.
it just kind of starts falling downhill.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt really uncomfortable to me, like how childlike he was.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Luciola having the like possessiveness to him, but also like having zero explanation on anything in his route. It was really frustrating. And then like when Arnaud is there in his route, like he's kind of a head. And like there's no real romance happening. It's just like him trying to explain away things that his dad's done. And so I'm like, mm. So maybe that's an issue of like the routes that I did, but I did the recommended route order. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like what else are you gonna do there?
yeah,
So
there
yeah,
it is. The art's pretty though.
number 30. That's where it is. That's
That's
where
where
it
it
lives
is.
for now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's gonna do it for us this week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalamecheckup.com or sac.cool is where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. Follow us on Blue Sky seasonalamecheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, A Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early. Our monthly exclusive Patreon podcast where we watched Romeo and Juliet for this month, the 1996 version, of course.
Romance.
Romance and Guns.
Woo!
There you
And
go.
wet.
And Wet Men. For sure. So yeah, you can find that and a bunch of other bonus content on the Patreon as well. Next week, it's time to dive into some Fantasian.
See what Sakaguchi was cooking up.
Yeah, see what Sakaguchi's been up to.
Mm-hmm. I know what he's
So,
been up to, but you just now found out what he's been up to.
yes. I knew he was been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14, but other
Well,
than that, on his side, he also made a game, I guess.
he also made a game.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna talk about that next week.
Mm-hmm.